Mm-mm. So what Saint Nick got to say about this?
I'm gonna let him tell you.
Oh, what you got to tell me? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
No, I said, what do you got to say about this? What do you have to say about the music that's out nowadays?
Oh, man. Where should I start? All right. Today's music, if you want to call it that. Like, all right, I can only really speak on the hip hop, even though some genres have been sort of touched with this. Everything's mainly like with how dudes rhyme is mainly style over substance. See what I'm saying? Like they'll rather come up with a slick way and how to spit what they gotta say, or come up with a nice punchline, a halfway decent metaphor, and spit it a certain way to where it sounds real nice, real smooth over a track that has a lot of melody behind it or what have you. You know, and have a gimmick. You know, get dressed up with what's the style of today's young hip hop listeners or whatever. Younger, should I say, younger hip hop listeners. And boom, they sell 1 million copies or whatever. Bottom line is style over substance. I mean, at one point, you probably had like 1 or 2 dudes that would probably try to pull off a stunt like this back when I was listening to really getting into listening to hip hop or whatever. Like you had different styles of people. You either if you wanted to listen to some dope boy stuff or whatever, you probably would pick up who would I think? You'll probably pick up like UGK or somebody like that. If you wanted to hear some conscious stuff, you know what I mean, you'd probably want to pick up Common's album or pick up a Goody Mob album or Outkast album. If you wanted to hear straight pimp stuff, you'll probably pick up a 8-Ball MJG album, or if you wanted to hear about like Flash and something New York mafioso type stuff, you'd probably pick up something like Biggie or Jay-Z or whatever. But now you ain't got none of that. You don't have an eclectic blend of people willing to go out and make music. You know what I mean? It just seems to be one avenue. Avenue. And if you pay attention, there's no new alternative rappers that's spitting consciousness and stuff like that. Everybody's all floss. The only people that's still spitting that conscious stuff are the people from the early to mid 90s. You still got Nas doing it. You still got Common doing it, or what have you. And that's about it.
My thing that gets me is these cats that was, they was spitting true lyrics like back in the 90s and stuff. They're not highly publicized like Lil Wayne and Young Jeezy and all of them. Like, why do you think that happens?
Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, today's hip hop fan or whatever, younger hip hop fans or whatever, you know what I mean? They're doing it like how movies do it, like how they do movies. You see what I'm saying? Like with summer blockbuster type movies, like they'll put up the sex, drugs, and violence. That seems to be very intriguing, especially the real fans, the actual fans that buy the music come from like middle class suburban areas. I'm not gonna say just white kids or what have you, because plenty of the rest of us so-called minorities have came a long way. So you could just put all them in one box. That the middle class, upper middle class, and up are the real buyers of hip hop. And because they, I guess they haven't really seen any of that or heard about any of that. They don't step outside and see a crackhead walking up and down the street. They can't name off the top of their head 10 homeboys straight up that's either selling dope, got locked up because of dope, or died because of dope. They ain't got that. So that sort of stuff intrigues them. It's exciting to them. You know what I mean? They think it's a movie that they're listening to. You see what I'm saying? So they're going to go out there and get it. They hooked on the sex, drugs, and violence. And because of that, a lot of dudes like put two and two together. They're like, oh, I want to make money. So if I rap about this the fan base that's really going to buy my stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When in actuality, you watering it down. In a minute, mess around. I mean, if hip-hop was just straight party music all the time and it didn't have such a great history, it would have been, if hip-hop had started off like how it is now, it would have died like disco.
Yep.
Straight up and down. But because it actually has a history of different MCs and groups doing it in different ways or what have you, you can sit up there and be like, okay, we got to try to fight to bring it back. That's why they ain't dead yet and it ain't going to die. But it will be ignored if we don't do nothing about it. Just like how, I hate to say it, in a lot of ways, jazz is ignored. Blues is ignored. You know what I'm saying? The only style of music that kind of stays true to itself is country.
Yep.
And that's why country fans still love it, because it stays true to itself. I mean, if you perpetrate yourself, how you gonna sit up there and make an honest buck if you perpetrate? You know what I mean? It sort of works against each other. You know what I mean? It's karma in a major way, if you will. You know. Pass the phone to Sir Scoot.
Yes. Hello? Okay. What was the question now?
Question was, hold on real quick. Hello? Okay, I'm sorry. No, my question was, I said you got rappers that, they spit from the early 90s that was spitting true knowledge and true lyrics like Nas and Rakim and all of them. But I'm like, they're not highly publicized like Lil Wayne and Jay-Z and all of them nowadays. So what do you think about that?
I think it's sad. I think it's very sad because these guys deserve it.
Yes.
And the other guys that's out there right now, I ain't gonna call no names. They don't deserve it because they saying a bunch of nothings.
Right.
Basically, it was a time in hip hop, and still is. Basically, it didn't go nowhere. Hip hop, I look at it as an art form where people can express themselves, not use it as a ticket or as a gimmick or to romanticize the drug game or the dope game. St. Nick had mentioned earlier about kids from the suburbs glorifying that, but if they would come live in the hood for a day, I would say if they go on a trip to the hood for a day and see how rough it is, they thank God for being in the suburbs.
Yep.
I guarantee you that. And it's not all that it cracks up to be. If they had to duck down on the floor, run from gunshots, because I done ran from gunshots at parties, all this stuff. That ain't where you want to be. That ain't the life that you want. My advice to those kids would, that is music to listen to, but I would advise them, don't want to pattern yourself after that kind of stuff. Conscious music is, basically it is underrated. Those guys, they not spitting what these other guys is spitting out there, so it's like they get people looking down on them. And And as I mentioned earlier, that's not fair at all to that artist because he putting his time and hard-earned effort into whatever project it is that he trying to put out there. He making music that's got a point.